What is going on, everybody? Today on Dylan Talks Tone, we are going to talk about quality control. So I just did a video on this here guitar, the 40th anniversary Squier Stratocaster. As you can see, the knobs are missing, and well, anyway, we've been playing around a little bit with this one. It's a really cool guitar. It's really good. The quality on it was fantastic. There was a couple of little things that we messed with in the last video that you can go and watch that video and hear about. But overall, for $5.99, I think this guitar was really worth what it costs. It's pretty awesome. But the thing is these series of guitars can be, according to all the internet forums, a little bit hit and miss. See, people are they're kind of like hell-bent on saying that, you know, I had a guitar back in 1980 whatever, and these Squiers of today are not as good, and I had one 10 years ago and it was garbage, and so now all Squiers must be garbage, whatever. Is that really true? And is the quality of these guitars bad? Well, this one was fantastic, but this could be a one-hit wonder. So I got another one. I actually, truth be told, I ordered 4 of these 40th anniversary Squiers, and the first 2 have come in. The other 2 we're still waiting on. So the first 2 were these gold edition ones with all the block inlays and the cool pick guard and all that stuff, and then the other 2 are like the vintage series. Actually, one might be gold and one might be... I got one vintage though, one vintage series, whatever they call that, with the aged hardware and stuff. So those guitars are coming, they're not here yet. But I thought, you know, as we receive these guitars, we should look at consistency of quality across the range. And since, I mean, I'm pretty sure this neck is, even though this one's got a skunk stripe and the other one doesn't, which is weird. I think these are fairly similar in how they're made, and obviously they're made in the same place and, you know, all that stuff. So let's look at the quality of this guitar in comparison to the last one and see if it's just as good, because that one was pretty good. Before we get to all the getting into the guitar thing, I will say this video is not sponsored. I bought these guitars with real money, and there is a link to them in the description below at Sweetwater, probably my favorite online retailer. Do me a favor and use those links. It does help out the channel a little bit. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, let's take this thing apart. Okay, so let's chat quality control. After playing it just a little bit, I will say that the setup is actually pretty good on this thing. First of all, let's get something really straight here, and people don't agree with me on this, but setup's not a quality control thing. Setup is a setup thing. Now the guitar should come obviously from the factory within relatively decent, but as guitars travel in trucks and ships and containers and everything, the setup can be all over the place, and that is not on the manufacturer. So how high the strings are, the neck relief setting, the intonation, all that stuff, that's not a quality control problem. When it gets to the dealer should be checking all this stuff to make sure that it is relatively within range before they give it to you. And if you want the guitar set up specifically to how you play, then you should pay for a setup to have it set up for you. So this is not quality control, and I think people get this really mixed up and conflated all the time. Even at Sweetwater with their 55-point inspection, they're not doing a setup. They're just making sure that the guitar exists and that everything is in the right place and that everything is relatively within range. So that being said, this guitar came from Sweetwater. So the neck relief on it we could probably use about a quarter of a turn. It's not terrible, but it could use about a quarter of a turn on the truss rod, I think. However, I'm not worried about it because I'm going to put 10s on this guitar and we're going to do a complete setup afterwards. The frets are really nice. The neck is really nice. There's no buzzing or any kind of messing around. The tuners work perfectly. There's no looseness in the tuners. The bridge, so this has got one of these funky Jazzmaster tilt back and forth, so when you move this tremolo, this bridge is supposed to rock back and forth. It does what it's supposed to do. All the pots work, the bass circuit works, which I don't really use that much, but it does work. It doesn't have any sharp fret ends anywhere. Speaking to the coolness of this bound neck, which we talked about in the last video on the Strat. The finish on the back of the neck is shiny, so if you don't like shiny, you might not like that. I'm not a shiny fan. I like a matte finish, but this is actually pretty nice. It's not super sticky. There is an issue though that we need to talk about. Let me get this thing on the bench, and I'm going to give you some close-ups, and then show you there's a problem here that we need to look at, and then also let's take it apart. See what's inside, because there's some interesting things I'm noticing about this. So let's look at it. Let's get it on the bench. All right, so let's talk quality control on these guitars and guitars in general. There's a couple things that we should think about here. One is that just because you see a couple of issues, even let's say you go in a Facebook group and there's 10 people with a problem with a guitar, that's nothing. There are tens of thousands of Squiers made every month. So, you know, when we think about seeing a few issues here and there, I don't think it's going to be an alarming problem. Overall, the quality of this guitar is very good. The quality of the series has been good so far. I don't know, we've got a couple other ones coming, so we can have, you know, wider, you know, sample pool. Okay. So I said in the video so far that the setup was really good, except there's one major problem, and I'm going to show it to you right here. Use my knife pointer. So you see the string spacing is odd between the B and the G here, and it's odd between the E and the B. See how it's wider here to here and narrower here to here? This saddle, I think, is in the wrong place. You see how on these saddles it's centered in the saddle? In this one, it's like cut to one side, and then there's another one somewhere in here. Maybe it's this one that's cut to the other side. I feel like this one should be the high E saddle, and this one should be the low E saddle. Like widening it out, but then having everything in line. See how these strings are not lined up properly? So when we get this guitar apart, I'm going to take that apart and see and make sure that that's right. That right there, shame on Sweetwater this time, they should have caught that. That's weird. So that is definitely a Fender Squier assembly thing. If that's what it is, I don't know until we get it apart, but I am pretty sure that that saddle is in the wrong place. All right, let's go ahead and rip this thing apart and see what we see inside. So I pulled the neck off of here, and one of the things I wanted to show you was that there is a little neck angle in this neck pocket, which is interesting for a Fender guitar, which I don't know. Do Jazzmasters have this? Get in the comments and let me know if you've ever seen a Jazzmaster with a little bit of neck angle built into it. Just seemed a little interesting to me. And it's not in the neck itself, it's actually in the neck pocket in the guitar. And I assumed when I pulled the neck off that there would be a piece of shim in here, and there is not. So that's very interesting. I've never seen that before. It could just be me. I'm not super experienced with Jazzmasters, so let me know. And then here we have this skunk stripe neck. Let's dive into the neck a little bit. So, Squier Jazzmaster, big 70s peg head, decent tuners. The finish on the neck is really, really nice. The fret ends on it are really nice. This neck was actually even nicer than the last one. As far as fret end finish goes, and as far as fret work, it was perfect. This thing is great. It's absolutely fantastic. There's one little issue right here, and I'll show you some B-roll with a better lens. There is like some scuffs on the side of the binding right here, and I think it'll just come off with your fingernail, or will I have to hit it with some polish? Yeah, I think we just hit it with some polish. It's like, I don't know how this neck was handled or whatever. There's a little bit of like, I don't know, transfer from something. I'm not really sure. Yeah, see, it comes off with my fingernail. So I think that'll clean up just fine, but I wanted to be honest about that there's a little, yeah, it's almost like file sanding marks that were a little dirty. When they do these necks in the end, they actually finish them with a block on an angle like this. And so if they don't clean up those sand scratches all the way, then you'll get this a little bit. And it's easy to fix. It's just got dirt in it, really. It'll clean up with some polish, I'm pretty sure. So what you'll see when we put the guitar back together later, that that'll be probably just fine, but I wanted to mention it and be honest about it. Yeah, see, it's coming off with my finger. What little fingernails I do have. Okay. So the neck is just as fantastic as the last guitar, and this is probably one of the things that makes this guitar worth it, in my opinion, to buy this particular model. Let's go ahead and look under the hood and see what's going on with the body. Okay, this is taking the body apart. All right, so all those bajillion screws out of the pick guard. When you flip this over on a Jazzmaster with a metal pick guard, be careful. Don't scratch the guitar. Everything looks pretty good in here. Just normal Squier stuff. Seems fine. People were asking in the last comments about the last video about, I don't know why these have baby pots in them. The pots are fine. The taper is a little weird. I don't like the taper on the tone knob. So we're gonna fix that. We're gonna replace these pots. Spoiler alert, you do have to drill these out. So I'll show you how to do that when we upgrade this guitar, because it's getting an upgrade. Spoiler alert. Because that's what we do here. Anyway, so everything seems fine. No shielding on the pickguard because it's a piece of metal. The pickups, which we'll get into in depth in our next video, are just normal Jazzmaster Squier kind of stuff. So we'll look into that. Somebody in the comments asked, why would they have a piece of metal or a screw screwed into the wood? It's because this is shielding paint and they're grounding the shielding paint. It's not super effective, but it is a thing that Fender has done for a long time. As far as all the quality issues on the body, there aren't any. The finish on this guitar is really good. I've looked it over really close. Even in these lights, it seems perfectly fine. I don't see anything wrong with it. Overall, this guitar is pretty fantastic. Another thing to think about too is what is a quality control issue and what is a setup issue. There was nothing on this guitar that was, the setup was fine. The quality control problem with that little saddle, that's definitely on a Squier situation. But I would also, honestly, even though I love Sweetwater, I would call them out for letting this through because it's not right. And you can see it visibly on the guitar, it's not right. So that's on them too. What would I do if I was you? Okay, so if it was me in this situation with either of these guitars, I'm split. Now I know how to do stuff and I know how to fix stuff. I would have kept the blue Strat and I would fix whatever little issues because it was just honestly 5 minutes of work. The white guitar, I would hold the dealer accountable and actually return that guitar and get a new one for 2 reasons. 1, the little issues on the side of the fretboard binding, and 2, that saddle problem. Now you could take it apart and fix it in 10 minutes and put strings on it and everything would be fine. But to tell you the truth, I would have probably just returned that guitar and got another one. Does that mean that the quality control is so bad on the guitar? It's weird because I would just fix it, but not everybody can do that. So maybe a little bit, maybe they are a little bit all over the place. So it really has to be up to you, but there's a couple of things that I would definitely take away from this. One is I would make sure that you hold the dealer that you bought the guitar from accountable. The only reason I didn't is because I wanted to show you honestly what was going on with this guitar. I could have just returned it and got a good one, but I wanted to show you honestly what was going on with the guitar and show you how even with the best dealer in the world, stuff can slip through. It's not the end of the world. Just return it and get another one. Don't get on Facebook or any other gear forums and make a huge deal about how Fender sucks just because one guitar is a little for you. Just hold the dealer accountable and get it fixed. Secondly, this also shows the benefits, the trade-offs of buying locally versus buying online. If I would have bought the guitar locally, I would have just went and got it swapped out. But because I bought it online, I didn't want to wait for a few days. Plus I wanted to show you, it gets a little murky there too. But lean on the customer service, again, even of the online place where you buy it from. That's why I like Sweetwater. This is not sponsored. These videos are not sponsored. I bought these guitars with my own money. We paid $5.99. There's a little discount on the website, like a 10% off thing that Fender's doing. But it's real money. There's nothing sponsored about it. Even though I like Sweetwater, again, I would call them out on this. Does that make them terrible? No, they run 15,000 orders a day. Mistakes get made, I get it. So I don't get bent about this stuff. It's just, to me, the reality of life. And I know that when somebody orders from me, if there's a little issue, I had a little issue last week. We shipped out a pickguard and it had a faulty pot in it. That's maybe happened to me twice in 10 years. But it happens. And to him, it ended his day. He couldn't play. It probably sucked super bad for him to have that one bad pot in his guitar. I feel ya. You know what I mean? But at the same time, on the grand scheme of life, this huge rock rolling around in the sun and the universe, I mean, a $5 pot being bad once in a while, I kind of get it. A saddle being upside down or facing the wrong way once in a while, it's not the end of the world. Anyway, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to put new pickups in that guitar. We're going to put new volume and tone pots in it. We're going to leave the bass circuit alone. I hope you dig it. I've got the bobbins right here for the new Jazzmaster pickups that are being wound today. We've got new pickups in the blue Strat already. You haven't heard them yet, but they're pretty awesome. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the like button because you're going to like some of this stuff that we've got coming out. And we've got some new amp reviews. We got a couple of pedal reviews coming. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next video. Oh yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff.